Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Constructed Clash. I'm Hizzy, and I'm joined by Matt.
Hey, how's it going?
How's it going? You got your GP top 8 photo on the video today because we're going camera shy today. Your long hair.
Old school. I mean, honestly, it looks pretty close to what I look like right now. Just like got like the
Right.
little goatee thing going on, but
Sure, sure. So last week we did a poll asking people what they wanted us to play. Modern won by the time we posted, by the time we recorded, but Standard actually won long term. So we're doing Standard today, right before the release of a new set. Playing I'm playing a Brew, and you're playing Esper Pixie.
yep, just tried and true, really.
So just kind of before we get started, if for people that are trying to do the kind of their last leg of RCQs with this format, why should they pick up Pixie?
I just honestly think it's a really strong deck. Like I haven't found any matches where I felt were worse than 50-50. Like, don't get me wrong, I think that like it's not like it just dunks on the entire format or anything, but there's no matchup that I have hit with Pixies where I'm like, oh, I really wish that my opponent wasn't playing this right now.
Yeah, that's totally fair. I think that it's also a really hard deck to attack because it attacks you from such a unique angle. Like being this value aggressive deck is really weird.
Mm-hmm. And the fact that your removal is just like always on no matter what, because your removal is, a combination of nowhere to runs and this town ain't big enough.
Yeah. So I'm going to be playing Temur Tempo Tear Eddie Mercrab. This is the deck that I won an RCQ with. It's a deck that whenever I'm down in the dumps in Standard and just feeling sad, it's the one that I pick up. It's actually a deck that you actually worked on with me quite a bit, and yeah, let's go over and look at these decks. So we'll start off with my list. So, kind of just worth noting, my deck plays 1 forest, 2 islands, 1 mountain, 2 analyzed pollens, and 4 bushwhacks, kind of as its basics. And then it's 3 Spire Bluff Canals as the other red sources, with a total of 17 lands. And we have 4 Sleight of Hands, 4 Storm Chaser's Talents, 4 Unsummons, 2 Analyzed Pollens, 4 Bushwhacks, 2 Seed of Hope, 4 Cash Grab, 2 Questing Druid, 4 Up the Beanstalk, 4 This Town Ain't Big Enough, 3 Tolarian Tear, 4 Eddie Merc Crab, 2 Roaring Furnace in the main. Some interesting things about this deck, you can get, just like the other versions of the 3-color decks, Seed of Hope is able to help grab your removal spell in the form of Roaring Furnace. You can also, more like the black one, less like the white one. You are able to this town your Roaring Furnace to bring it back to get extra removal spells. Questing Druid is a recent addition to the deck. This is not a card that I was playing, but it is able to get quite big in this deck, just with the number of blue spells that you play. And then it's just like a typical Storm Chaser talent deck. Any thoughts on this deck, Bad? And this is something that you've seen me play a lot, and obviously that you worked on with me.
Yeah, I mean, I think that your list is super interesting. I do like the idea of being able to this town use some of your removal spells back. As you said, that that is the thing that the Sultai versions are doing. But yeah, I think that's really cool compared to something playing Sheltered by Ghost, for example. Kind of hard to do that with. Not impossible, but just a little harder, But yeah, I think that generally speaking, if you can find a reasonable amount of put stuff in the graveyard and have graveyard payoffs with that deck, it is really strong.
Yeah, one of the things that I really like about this deck is your cards are very modal outside of Tolarian Tear. Like Cash Grab can get a land, it can get your removal spell, it can get you up the Beanstalk. Storm Chaser's Talent has a lot of play to it, as everybody has figured out. That card seems so innocuous and just is one of the very best cards in Standard. And then, it has a lot of value with Up the Beanstalk. You're able to draw quite a bit of cards in this deck. And, even with Question Druid, you see so much of your deck every game with this deck. It's really powerful.
Mm-hmm.
For you, you are playing your baby Esper. Let's pull that up. Go ahead and move this over so everybody can see it. So, yeah, why don't you talk to me about the deck really quick?
Yeah, sure. So the mana in this deck is actually a little bit different than what people were initially playing. I don't know what the spread. I assume most players are playing this particular mana base now. We're playing the 12 fast lands. That's just like a mandatory. But then instead of playing the typical 11 pain lands, we're playing only 8 pain lands. And then additionally, we're playing 2 restless anchorage and 1 basic swamp. And that's mostly just to like kind of keep the damaging yourself down a little bit. Like when the deck first came out, there were definitely games where you would draw like, I mean, it still can happen, but less common, that you draw like 5 pain lands and then you just like eventually find yourself in a spot in the game where you could easily win, but you can't cast spells anymore.
Right.
Just like, my opponent can't kill me, but I also am at 1 life, so I literally can't cast spells anymore. So I'll die, at some point to what they're doing.
Yeah, one of the interesting things that I wanted to kind of ask you about is, but there are some auto includes in these decks. Specifically, for Nowhere to Run, for Storm Chaser's Talent, for Fear of Isolation, for This Town Ain't Big Enough, and for Hopeless Nightmare. Is that package the reason to play this deck, or is there more to it than that?
I mean, I wouldn't even necessarily say the Hopeless Nightmare is an auto include. Like, if you look at any of the UB list, they're only playing 3.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, it's a combination of that, and I do think that I mean, it depends on what we're saying when you say, is that the reason to play this deck? Like, if you're talking specifically about the Esper version, I mean, I think that the Pixie is, a very strong, vital part of the deck. But yeah, I mean, if I had to pinpoint one thing that I think was really the central focus of the deck, yeah, I would say it's just Nowhere to Run and Storm Chaser's Talent with this town ain't big enough. Like, everything else is kind of just supplemental.
Awesome. How do you expect this matchup to go?
Did we want to go over the rest of the cards in the deck, or?
Oh yeah, sorry.
Yeah, sure. So the cards in the main deck are 2 Spiteful Hexmage, 4 Storm Chaser's Talent, 4 Hopeless Nightmare, 4 Optimistic Scavenger, 4 Nurturing Pixie, 1 Sheltered by Ghost, 4 Fear of Isolation, 2 Go for the Throat, 4 Nowhere to Run, 4 This Town Ain't Big Enough, 1 Defiled Crypt and Cadaver Lab. That's the door. And then 3 Kaido Bane of Nightmares.
What does the door do?
So it's a I don't know what the word I would look for it is. I can't remember the name of the spell that does this, but it returns a creature to your hand for 1 mana from your graveyard. And then the other side of the door is 4 mana. Whenever a card leaves your graveyard, you make a 2/2 zombie.
How often does that happen?
The 4 mana side, rarely. It's mostly just like 1 mana recursion. So like, a common play pattern will be your opponent kills your Pixie or whatever, and then you play this, get the Pixie back, bounce this thing, play it again, get back a Fear of Isolation, bounce this thing again, and it's just like really hard to actually remove your board.
Yeah. Totally fair. How do you land on the 1 Sheltered by Ghost versus, however many different people are playing?
Yeah, most people are not playing any Sheltered by Ghost. The card that is typical in that slot is Tithing Blade, and I just don't think that that's a playable Magic card. I think Sheltered by Ghost has been quite good sometimes. Obviously, there are times when it's a liability. So it's kind of hit or miss, I would say. But I think that you can, most of the time, if you're only playing 1 Sheltered by Ghost, you can leverage it in such a way that you're not going to get blown out by it.
Awesome. How do you expect this matchup to play out?
Well, actually, I've played this matchup a little bit from the Temur side. Not Temur specifically, but just Tolarian Terror side. And I got to play this matchup once from the Esper side just yesterday. And so far, it has felt somewhere between 50-50 and Pixie's favorite a little bit. I think that getting tempoed out by This Town Ain't Big Enough is pretty common for your deck, unfortunately. And not being able to rely on the ward is unfortunate. Although it is a little bit awkward from this side, I'll say, because like Nowhere to Runs don't really kill very much.
Right.
But you kind of have to keep them in just to not get blown out by ward.
Sure.
Kind of interesting. I think Kaido is also very good in the matchup, but Eddimer can kind of tap down your blockers and kill it. So there's certainly a lot of play to the matchup, and I'm excited to see how it's going to play out in these 5 games.
Awesome. Well, let's get right into those games. You just blocked me?
No, I said I misclicked it. Like, as in, I was trying to, and I accidentally accepted your match.
All right, Matt, you have won the die roll. Would you like to be on the play?
I would. Being on the play is awesome. The sand is a keep.
I don't think my hand is a keep. It's got 3 green spells and no green mana.
It sounds like, I mean, having no green mana in the opener is just kind of rough in that deck, right? Because green is also your fixing color.
This hand has no lands. This is probably a keep. On my mulligan?
Nightmare. At least you're on the draw. I will say that's one of the more potent things about this deck is that, like, you know, true of any deck that's like heavy on discard and Thoughtseize effects, but like when your opponent mulligans, it's just extra punishing.
Yeah. I'm gonna discard this. Well. Ugh, this could be bad. Okay, I'm gonna discard this. I've never played this deck on Moto before.
Is there like a particular thing that you're not sure how to do on Moto?
No, I'm just,
Just
noting it and like noticing that, the Moto client is going to be a little different for me.
Yeah, what's interesting is I've actually played this deck more, I think, on Arena now than I have on Moto, so I was kind of feeling a little weird about it too when we started this game.
She didn't have that.
And I mean, if you want a reason that I like the Esper version better than the UB version, this is like among the reasons. You get a lot more of these kind of draws.
Alright. Hex Mage.
Yeah, up the beanstalk is kind of an interesting one here. Definitely good to recoup the cards. And the obvious tension with up the beanstalk is always kind of like, is it fast enough? One thing that's also interesting about this matchup, like obviously it's not coming up here because there's a Hex Mage for you to bounce, right? But like Unsummon being like your primary removal, or like one of your primary removal spells, often ends up being like counterproductive in a matchup like this, right? Where like I'm like, yeah, return the Pixie to my hand and I'll just Nightmare you again.
Right.
It's kind of funny.
Take 5. That's so many. Oh, I wish you didn't. Did you stop that already?
No, I like it.
The fact that that thing shocks is just bonkers.
I mean, it would not be playable if it didn't also do the 2 damage. I'll say that. Like the fact that this deck just has like this crazy like reach angle is also one of the things that makes it really good. Like at some point, if my attacks just stop working, I'm just like, okay, but you're at 4, so eventually I'll just find ways to hopeless nightmare you to death.
Dude, this is so awkward. It's kind of tough. I think I'm supposed to discard the Questing Druid. I don't really like it.
Yeah, that's fair. So I'm thinking here, I have a line that's kind of interesting. I guess no, this is actually, I'm just being silly. I was thinking that I should, because my other card in hand other than this one is...
Well, that's just game.
Yeah. So my other card is Sheltered by Ghost, but I was worried about you had Unsummon, right? So I was like, okay, I think I should Sheltered by Ghost the Spiteful Hex Mage, because...
Sure.
Then I can still get in for 2 with the Nurturing Pixie. But yeah, go for the 3rd is just better than what I was talking about, so...
We'll all be on the play now.
Yeah, that sounds good. I mean, if you were on the play, you'd have had no cards in hand already.
Sure.
Yeah, my hand is kind of, not awkward, but I think I'm pretty sure I'm supposed to keep it. It's just I can imagine how it doesn't go very well. I would have no idea what to think if I saw Spire Bluff Canal Sleight of Hand in Standard. If you and I hadn't worked on this deck together. I mean, I would probably assume some kind of Tolarian Terror deck, but like beyond that, I wouldn't have a guess really.
Interesting.
It's a Raincore. A Raincore that gives Ward 2.
And lifelink.
What's that? And lifelink. Yeah, it costs 2 mana though. Obviously, not quite the perfect parallel. Oh man, I'm getting all kinds of bad thoughts now about playing Boggles. I don't know if anybody's played that since Sheltered by Ghost has been printed. Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the awkwardness of my hand is starting to show. Just not having like a good value target here for the Pixies.
That was a strong turn. Probably need to do some blocking early in this game.
Interesting.
I think that you are very much acting as the current beatdown.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I just wondered if 2 damage was the most that thing could have actually soaked up. Not clear. It's possible it is, but
Yeah, I mean maybe it was a little bit of an early block. I'm not sure.
also not leveling our talents, so we probably have Eddie Merc.
It's only on a neon sign.
Well, it could be. There are other things that it could be for sure, right? It could just be a different form of interaction, but
I do have other interaction.
probably just even. Doesn't really matter how I spread it. I guess spreading on the flyers first is ideal. So this also potentially plays around Torch the Tower if I get this thing up to an X4.
Mm-hmm.
You love to see that one from my position, honestly. The Bushwhack getting used as a lay of the land instead of a removal spell here.
I'm in pretty big trouble here. Trouble. I knew you were trouble when you walked in.
It's a really good draw.
Oh, I don't like hearing that. That was a really good draw. I wish it wasn't that. think I'm dead.
Yeah, I think I am supposed to go to combat first. It's actually a pretty interesting sequencing from my perspective. So I have this town ain't big enough, and it would be reasonable to just bounce pre-combat to get the extra counter moved onto something. But I think it's actually just a lot better to attack first, so that if you flash an Eddie Merc, I can just bounce it in addition to the Hopeless Nightmare.
Why would you want to bounce the Eddie Merc?
Just so that it's not in play. I mean, it's not like if you're spending mana to cast the Eddie Merc every turn, I think that's fine for me. It's just like this is a tempo deck after all, you know. Like I feel like that is like I was saying before in the pregame. Like I think that tempoing you out in this fashion is the way that this matchup is usually good for Pixies. Like this town ain't big enough is actually quite solid against you.
And now you can do it, and yeah, that should be game.
Yeah, it's
I don't have
7-9. Yeah.
I don't have an out to this, so
Yeah, no one summon or anything.
All right.
Fair.
Let's go to talk about the sideboards. Okay, so quite a few cards that I could potentially bring in this matchup. You know, I think that of like honestly my entire sideboard, I think that other than Scavenging Ooze probably, you could probably make an argument for. I think that
honestly, you can make an argument for Scavenging Ooze too. when we're talking about it, like
yeah, I think basically my entire sideboard has potential to be good in this matchup. But I also think that we have some really clear outs to help us. Like Unsummon that's not it. That's not happening for us. Oops. I just pretended to sideboard. I'm leaving this in the video. That's so funny. What unsummons are in? Did I rent? Oh, that's so funny. It has like the wrong unsummon. Anyway, what I was saying is that I think that you can make a lot of arguments. Obstinate Baloth is definitely coming in. I don't really think Screaming Nemesis, while would be really hard for you to block, I don't think that that's what my game plan is about. I do like Lithomagnetic Barrage as an actual removal spell to kill like your team, as your team can get pretty big and it can't be countered and it actually kills stuff. I'm not sure how I feel. I don't think Pyroclasm is going to be good enough, and I think that Paw Patch Formation is likely not it either. But I also think Up the Beanstalk is potentially a bait in this matchup. Like, it is a way to recoup cards, but if you're attacking me from that angle, I am under the gun pretty badly.
Yeah, I like a lot of what you're saying there, honestly. I also think that that's one of the things that's really powerful about the Pixies deck. Even compared to like the UB bounce deck or like UB mid or whatever, it's like your opponent really has to try to sideboard against so many different angles. You're like, I don't know, maybe this is good. Like,
yeah,
I think you're probably have some good reads there, though. I like Lithomatic Barrage a lot. Also obviously Baloth, if you have them, that's definitely the kind of thing you should bring in here. But yeah, so that sounds pretty reasonable to me.
So about your board?
So for my side, that I have some obvious outs. My obvious outs are Hex Mages and the Cadaver Lab / Defiled Crypt. Because like for the most part, even if I think that you're going to have a lot of red removal, like I would mostly put it on Torch the Tower. I know you have Roaring Furnaces, but like that wouldn't be my first guess. I also doubt that the game is going to be about you Roaring Furnacing me to the point where I have no board and me trying to like recoup with Defiled Crypt.
Sure.
So those ones are coming out. I am citing out the Nowhere to Runs just because you're not playing white, so like I'm not super concerned about you having like a Tolarian Terror plus like Sheltered by Ghosts or like ways to give it more ward. And just having like a -3/-3 just isn't impactful enough to matter here. Like, also not having to worry about mentors or anything like that. So I'm bringing out the Nowhere to Runs, the Hex Mages, the Defiled Crypt, and I was on the fence about whether I should be having more or less Sheltered by Ghosts, but currently I am citing one out because Unsummon is just cheap enough that I think it's going to be fairly trivial for you to unsummon something and even pay the ward on it. You also could have, there's the other 1-mana Unsummon that you might have post-board that only has attacking creatures. And then the obvious ends that I have are 2 Rest in Pieces and 3 Destroy Evils. And then I think that Kaidos are good as well, so I'm bringing in the 4th Kaido, and then the last 2 that I'm bringing in are 2 No More Lies.
Yeah, I think the Kaido makes a ton of sense, and I actually just agree with your board plan 100%, to be honest. Cool. Well, let's go to the games. I'll keep this.
I think that this hand is a little too awkward to keep. It's kind of got the same exact problem that my last hand had, where I had like a bunch of pixies and really no value engine. But at least in the case of the last hand, I had fast lands, and also I had the Scavenger, which I knew I could at the very least. Like, I didn't have the Shelter by Ghost in the opener of the last one, but I knew I could at least go Scavenger on 1, attack for 1, play the Pixie, bounce the Scavenger, replay the Scavenger.
Sure.
This hand that I have here has 3 Pixies and nothing to do with them, so I'm gonna mulligan this.
Okay.
This hand I will keep. Kind of an interesting decision I want to put back. I guess I'm just gonna put back a fast land and just plan to draw another one. Probably makes the most sense.
Right, I will lead on the best card in Standard.
Spirebluff Canal?
No.
Such high praise for Firebluff Canal. I like your decision to lead on the Storm Chasers, though. I'll do that too. That sounds pretty good. I will say one of the things about this deck that I think is fairly intuitive to me, but might not be intuitive to everybody, is that, like, in post-board games and matchups where you think your opponent is likely to have like Wiltleaf Lieges and Baloths and stuff, you don't necessarily need to side out your Hopeless Nightmares, but you should, like, playing them on turn 1 if you don't have a way to deal with a Baloth sometimes isn't the right play. Like, obviously sometimes you can't do anything about it, but for example, if I was given the option between Storm Chaser's Talent on 1 or Hopeless Nightmare on 1 in a post-board game, I would most of the time choose Storm Chaser Talent.
It's probably just better anyway, most of the time, just with the prowess, right?
It depends. Like, I think if you have a lot of bounce effects, sometimes the Hopeless Nightmare is just even stronger. Also, play draw is pretty dependent. I think on the play, the Storm Chaser Talent is most of the time better, but on the draw, it's often better to do the Hopeless Nightmare first. It's all just kind of context, Also, against any aggressive deck, like, the Storm Chaser's Talents don't block very well. They're just kind of chump blockers. So often in those matchups, I like to lead on Nightmare.
I have an interesting decision here, and you bounce this Otter and my Storm Chaser's Talent, which I don't hate.
That sounds pretty good. I mean, obviously, I don't know. I guess your other card is Cash Grab?
And then my other card is Questing Druid.
Oh, Questing Druid, sure. Yeah, if my opinion would be to just do the bounces, right? Because it saves you 2 life right now, gives you the value off of the Storm Chasers, and also, like, I like Druid later in the game when you're, like, more free to do what you need to do, because you're really tied into using those 2 cards, right?
Yeah, I agree.
If you seek the beast right now. Pretty interesting. I I basically have 2 tap lands in my hand. Like they don't have to be tap lands, but I think it's just better to make them both tap lands.
Oh, because you had a fast
I have
land.
another fast land, yeah. I think just getting the anchorage down now makes sense because the anchorage is going to be tapped whenever, and they don't have 3 mana worth of stuff to do. I'm just supposed to kill this now. I think I'm pretty clearly getting raced. Like, your otters are better than mine, generally. But I also can't really block, so...
Well, I don't really want to miss another land drop, so I might just be forced into Seeking this Beast now. I don't really have to, though. I don't know.
It kind of depends on what the rest of your hand looks like.
I mean, if I draw an untapped blue source, this Seek the Beast is going to be pop off a clock.
Yeah, take it we have another Storm Chaser talent.
Yeah. Well, we did.
Not bad either, though, right? I mean, like, just getting to wipe my board, deal me 6 sounds pretty good. Now it feels like we're in the mirror.
I don't know if this is the right sequencing. It's possible that I was supposed to play the Question Druid instead of what I'm doing, but I think that I want to end this game.
Oh, I mean, yeah, this seems crazy good to me. I can't imagine that playing the Druid first is better. This puts me in a bit of an awkward spot for sure. I guess I just try to draw an untapped land next turn.
Okay. I think I am going to set up for next turn.
Yeah, I think that I'm pretty much priced into this and just drawing an untapped land. It's the whole plan. I guess technically, no, because I have to do this now. I was gonna say technically I'm threatening to block, but I'm really not because I have to do this right now. You can only counter spells while they're on the stack, Spencer. I don't know if you knew this.
I did know that.
Okay, no. guess any kind of bounce effect would also buy me some time, probably, depending on what the context of the rest of your hand is. I guess we'll just play this. I'm just probably gonna lose, but here's a little bit of a decision point here. I could, you know, obviously firing up the Restless Anchorage is the safe play. It'll probably give me a turn, although, yeah, because even Torch the Tower wouldn't actually kill it unless you had something else to back it up. Alternatively, if I just didn't think you had a non-creature spell or didn't have 2 non-green spells, I could level up the Storm Chaser talent, and then I'm in a pretty good position to actually try to win the game. Might be better. It's like the Restless Anchorage play is kind of the not lose play, whereas the Storm Chaser's talent line might actually be the win the game line. I mean, obviously I have context that the 2 cards in your hand are non-lands, but I guess you've missed a land drop in this game, so I know for sure that they're non-lands, even if you hadn't told me. I think I'm supposed to just do this and just hope that I don't die.
You are gonna die.
Yeah, I mean, that seems very likely, right? Like,
yeah, I agree.
But I think like firing up the Anchorage, trying to block.
To be fair, you were dead either way.
Okay. Well, what are the cards?
I have an Eddie Mercrab, and this town ain't big enough.
Does that work? That doesn't kill me through an Anchorage.
That does. I tap down the Anchorage.
Okay, but then I take 4, right?
No, then this town ain't big enough.
Oh, you have mana for both.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Okay.
I mean, I'm gonna make I have to make the same play now anyway.
Sure. Yeah. He literally does the things you have mana for. It makes sense. Yeah.
Oh wait, hold on. Yeah. Oh no, I did that right. Okay.
I mean, probably you don't even have to target my Storm Chaser's talent, right?
I don't want to target my stuff.
Well, you don't have to. You can choose up to 2 targets.
Game 4!
Yeah, that was quite a strong draw. I think that the Storm Chaser's talents, this town ain't big enough draws, are going to be your best bets, honestly.
I can keep this.
Yeah, my hand seems totally fine.
Mine's like, you know, a hand of magic cards.
Hand of magic cards? How could I ever win?
I hope you don't.
Sounds tough to beat magic cards.
No! I didn't want you to has.
You don't want me to also have magic cards? I mean, yeah, just at a glance from these games, I think what we can clearly see is that the prowess draws are just so much better than anything with.
I think I'm supposed to attack into this.
Okay.
If you want to trade otters, like, let's do it.
Yeah, I'm super down to trade otters. Your otters are so much better than mine.
Stop having otters! That Storm Chaser's talent seems really good.
Yeah, it sure does. Oops, all Storm Chaser's talents.
You have no idea. I wish I hadn't traded. I mean, I guess I wouldn't have.
Yeah, I think that was crazy talk, honestly. I feel like I'd be dead already if you hadn't traded. Well, that is a fascinating draw, isn't it?
I don't know, is it?
It's pretty interesting, honestly. I don't even know what to make of this. Ugh. I guess that it's correct. It's kind of interesting, though. You'll see when the time comes, I guess.
She can draw that. Bailoff.
Yeah, I mean, that could happen. I am prepared to beat a Bailoff here. It's not all upside. Like, I am turning off my own Storm Chaser's talent. But it feels like it's got to be distinctly better for me in this spot, right? It turns off your terrors, your Eddie Mercs, and you had Storm Chasers plus this town, so I wasn't even winning on that front previously. It's very difficult on Moto to see which cards are the ones that are... I assume it's the Yabamai Coast and the Analyze the Pollen here?
It is, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, pretty nice being able to shut off the collect evidence portion.
Yeah, that was clutch, man.
It's a good one. It's probably, I assume that was the card you tapped after the discard there?
No, you saw the card I kept. That was the question, Drew.
Oh, right. Yeah, obviously. Right. Okay.
Oh! Should have killed the otter. I'm so stupid. I just assumed that this dealt more damage.
I see. I thought it was just a straight up misclick. I didn't realize it was a misevaluation of how many.
I'm just a dum dum. Okay, your otter's dead.
I mean, yeah, I'll try to make that work. I can obviously not attack and block with it.
Yeah. My bad.
That's all good.
Actually, punted though, because I definitely should have cast this first.
Yeah, I thought so when you played the analyze the pawn, I'm like, oh, I guess it's fine because
Yeah, I just
doesn't grow.
I just
But
punted twice. I mean, not. I misplayed twice. I shouldn't say punt. Like that otter's not attacking.
oh, whoops, sorry. I just literally forgot already.
It's all good. It's my fault. Huh. Okay. I don't know which of these plays is correct. Playing a little bit too fast, which I don't need to do in a video.
Yeah, fair enough.
I'm gonna do this. I don't know if it's right, to be completely honest with the viewer.
I mean, I don't know what your other options were, but full disclosure, this is the thing that I was hoping for.
Makes sense.
I just made a really bad boo-boo also.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, I was planning on sacrificing my Hopeless Nightmare to Scribe, but I, fortunately, right before I did that, realized that that doesn't work with Rest in Peace and play. Trying to figure out if I'm even supposed to be attacking here. I guess I am, though, for now. Gotta remember that you're actually at 9.
It's whatever. You have one card?
Mm-hmm.
Is it good?
Not really. I mean, compared to what's happening to me, not really. You just, like, drawing bangers. Oh, that's so much better. Yeah, I think I basically need to draw, like, Kaido or something high impact. I guess this town ain't big enough would still be pretty good. I really needed you to draw, like, one of your 10 uncastable cards.
So decide this otter's dead, because it will affect my attacks.
Yeah, it's dead. Yeah, just attack.
Look.
God, you're so good.
I can't believe I did that. I just, like, my brain is just, like, just playing too fast.
Fair enough. Is this even right? This is actually a really tough spot. Even, I mean, I drew the best, probably the best draw on the deck. Maybe.
This town?
Yeah, it is this town. I'm just trying to decide whether it's like the awkwardness. I guess I could. Well, I could actually bounce the Rest in Peace. That's kind of interesting.
That seems so bad.
Does it?
You want to bounce your Storm Chaser's talent and Rest in Peace when you instead of my Otter?
When what?
Instead of my Otter?
Well, I was never gonna bounce. I was thinking about bouncing the Questing Druid and Hopeless Nightmare. Maybe it's better to just bounce Otter and Storm Chasers. But the thing is, I can get this engine actually going. If I bounce the Storm Chasers and the Rest in Peace, I go block.
Do you only have one Otter?
I have 2 Otters. I replay the Storm Chaser talent.
But you don't have this Otter.
Oh yeah, right. Okay. All right, I'm just dead. Let's not even. I don't want to continue to play this game where I have an invisible.
I told you that you don't have to have that. Like we can do it the other way. Leave a comment. Let us know. What do you prefer? Do you prefer to let the misplay stand, or not? We'll be back with Game 5. You get Game 5 on the play. Yeah, I'll keep this.
I think that I cannot. You don't have any black mana is the main problem with this hand. I will keep this hand, though it does have that problem that I was highlighting in the intro here. The Oops All Pain lands.
We'll see if that matters.
I mean, you always think it won't because you're like, oh, whatever, this game's not going to come down to that. But, like, you'd be surprised at how fast you can murder yourself with several pain lands. If your mana base is like 4 or 5 pain lands, you're just like, okay, well, probably be dead on turn 3. So.
I don't know if this is right, but we're doing it this way.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's just strictly better to do it this way. There's a pretty good chance that my Otter doesn't make it through this combat step, but basically no value in doing this post-combat.
Woo! That is many much Otters.
I did draw a pain-free source of mana, which is some good news, bad news from my perspective over here. I think having the pain-free source of mana is probably worth enough that I would just... It's fine to just have a little too many lands.
Don't have a Pixie?
I literally just drew Pixie. I was... It's what's funny is I wasn't even planning on doing that this turn. I was thinking I would just buy back this town, but maybe it is better to just Pixie here.
If there's one thing that I've learned, we'll talk about this in the post-game, it's that Storm Chaser's talent is the best card in this matchup.
I said this like a bunch of times when you kept Storm Chaser telling me. I'm like, yeah, these draws are actually hard to beat. I think if you have anything with an Eddy Merc or a Tolarian Terror, it's like pretty free for Pixies. That's honestly kind of making me reevaluate siding and Rest in Peace in this match.
Yeah, for real though. Honestly, like, what's crazy to me is like, I could totally believe. Well, we'll talk about it in the post game. I'm supposed to block, right?
Yeah, I have no idea. I mean, probably. I don't know. It's just a tough spot, especially. I mean, depends on what the context of your hand is, but yeah, in this case, I think if you're trading, you should be blocking, right? That makes sense to me. Bushwhack's pretty good though.
It makes me not want to block.
it still might not be correct though. It's hard to say.
It's
I don't know. That's tough. It's like you can probably block here, and then if you have any other color of spell, you can play the Questing Druid, play that spell, and then Bushwhack. I don't know. Did I play a land this turn? There's no way I did, right? What happened? I tried to stop and play a land like 6 times, but it didn't work out for me. It's actually kind of a big deal, too, though, because getting the Storm Chaser's talents to buy back this town was like part of my big master plan over here. Truly unfortunate. I also, wow, I compounded this misplay really badly.
oh yeah.
So I don't know. We'll see. I think that I couldn't lose this game if I had just played my 4th land and then leveled up the Storm Chasers that last turn. But instead, I like accidentally forgot to play a land, and then instead of just playing the untapped land like I had meant to, I played the tapped land, so I couldn't level it up that turn. And so now I'm 2 turns away from this towning, whereas I could just be, you know, attacking for 11 this turn and bouncing your blockers. Actually, more than that. I could be attacking for, I guess, 11. 11 minimum.
But you didn't do it this turn.
I haven't yet. Cost 4 mana, right?
Right, but if you're gonna bounce your Storm Chaser's talent, then and play.
How would I do that though? I don't have 6 mana.
Oh, sure.
That's what I'm saying. Not playing a land.
I get it.
Not playing a land and you know, all the other things that I did there. Not ideal. I'm probably just supposed to attack. How likely am I to die here? Not that likely. I guess pretty likely. Yeah, I mean, if obviously if I had just played my lands, I had another land in hand. Like if I had just played my lands, I would have already won this game last turn.
Sure. That was some spaghetti from us. Let's go to the post game.
Yeah.
Matt, did you know Magic is hard?
That's really not though. I literally pressed F2 as slow as I could. I have no idea how that happened. I've not had that happen to me in years.
Sure.
I was literally like, I like F2'd through my main phase, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna make sure to go really slowly so that I don't miss my land drop. And then I like pressed F2, and then I'm in my end step, and I'm like, what the hell?
So, the matchup does feel really, really close. And I honestly don't know, like, what either side could do to make it better. Like one of the things that I noticed, and I think the reason that, like, for me, like, your cards are so cheap in both of these decks. Like, all of your cards cost 2 or less mana, basically. And so you have so many decisions going into every single turn in game. And I do think that it makes the games harder.
I mean, generally, I think having more decisions is just harder. I think that's... Anybody that thinks any deck with 4 and 5 mana spells is harder than any deck with 1 and 2 mana spells is just, like...
Up in the night?
Yeah, tripping. I don't know. I have no idea what they're thinking.
Anything that you saw that you didn't think about? I mean, you talked about recipes and stuff, but, like, what were your thoughts, and what did you learn?
Yeah, I mean, I think I voiced my main thought after game 3. We were, like, in the middle of game 4, the early parts of game 4. Like, I think that I did not realize how different your draws are with Storm Chaser's Talent versus not. Like, I think games where you went turn 1 Storm Chaser's Talent, you're probably actually pretty favored. And games where you didn't, I just don't even know how you could win.
Yeah.
So, like, I think that one of the things that's going to make the matchup hard for the Temur deck, or the Terror deck in general, in the pre-board games, is that you're not going to know necessarily what you're playing against. And if you just keep a hand that doesn't have turn 1 Storm Chasers, you just lose. But, like, you were probably actually pretty favored post-board because you can actually keep hands that are, like, Storm Chasers Talent-centric, right? Like, mulliganing with discretion is pretty good. So I don't know. I found that really interesting. Like, it didn't automatically occur to me how much better of a Storm Chaser's Talent deck you are than I am.
Sure. Yeah, that was my number one takeaway too. Leave a comment. Let us know what you think. It really does help out these videos when we get those comments and those likes. Just want to thank everybody who's been watching. You know, Matt looks at those views religiously. He loves to know how many people are watching and what's going on. So thank you, Matt, for doing it. You can find me on Blue Sky at Spencer13H. You can find me every week on Constructive Criticism. Don't forget to check out the Constructive Criticism Patreon. This is Constructive Clash powered by Constructive Criticism. And we'll see you guys all next week. Ooh, we might take next week off. I'm not sure. Because the new set is coming out. And yeah. So, if we could take next week off, but thank you so much. And we'll see you guys all with the next Constructive Clash.
Magic, magic, magic.